In this video, I'll demonstrate how to make a rough selection using the Quick Select tool. Double-click Image 2575 in Bridge to open it in Camera Raw. This image has already been developed, and the parameters are stored in the associated XMP file. Click Open Image to transfer the photo to Photoshop. And then zoom in on the people by dragging to the right over them. Hold down the spacebar to pan. You can drag and reorient the image so you can focus on these two figures. We'd like to ultimately extract them from the photo so that we can use them as entourage in other projects. So this process begins by using the Quick Selection tool. And I recommend that you select Auto Enhance up here on the options bar because Photoshop will do additional dynamic processing as you select. You can use the bracket keys on the keyboard to change the size of the brush here. I'm going to make a brush stroke over her body, and it's going to quickly analyze the photo and create a selection edge where the pixel contrast is greatest. It did a reasonable job down here on her legs because there is a lot of contrast between the color of her jeans and the path. But it did an inaccurate job over here because it went to the edge of this other person's leg. So what I need to do is zoom in even more and then press W to go back to the Quick Select tool. Then reduce the brush size by pressing the left bracket key. Hold down the Option key, which is the Alt key in Windows, and the cursor changes from a plus to a minus. Then drag over this area to remove it from the selection. There's an area here under the arm that I want to remove from the selection, but to do so I need to dramatically decrease the size of the brush. Then I can go in here, hold down the Option key, and drag over this area. But as I do that, you see that it removed that all right, but it removed too much. So I just need to let go of the Option key, maybe increase the brush size, and paint over the arm again to include it. So you'll get the best results when you zoom in and decrease the brush size. And then you can be more accurate about the area that you want to remove. This doesn't have to be perfect. It just is a rough selection that we will refine later. But we do need to get the overall outline of the figures. So I'm going to continue on, adding areas where they're needed, simply by dragging with the Quick Select tool. And then I'll follow that up by holding down the Option key and dragging over areas that aren't needed. Over here, I'm going to remove this area, but it went too far. I need to re-add the hair in. And I want to make an effort to include some of this wispy hair in my selection. Now over here, I also want this male figure, so I'm going to drag over his body. And up here on the head as well. And the ear. Then I'm going to hold down Option and remove this area. So it's a back and forth game where you're going to be adding and removing. I'm going to add a little bit more of the hair in. Okay, now over here we need to add this large area, so I'll increase the brush size. And just remove a little bit here along the edge of the arm. Down here we have a small area that needs to be removed. And it took too much, so I need to add this back by dragging over it again. And the arm. Down here we need to add the shoe. Before I add this, I notice that the color of this shoe is very similar to the path, so it's going to be difficult to select this. So I'm going to hold down the Option key first and remove the path, even though it's already removed or not part of the selection. What I'm doing here is giving information to the tool to say I don't want these colors. Now I can release the Option key and drag over the shoe, and I should get a more accurate selection. There we go. I'm going to remove this shadow area and this whole area between the legs. We have just two small areas to remove, and I need a very small brush size for that. Hold down the Option key and select this bright area. And again over here, very small brush size, and remove this bright area between the fingers. So I'll zoom out, and that's an acceptable rough selection. So go to the Select menu and choose Save Selection and call this People. The selection will be saved as a new channel, which you can see here on the Channels panel, right here. So in this video, you learned how to create a rough selection using the Quick Selection tool.